Pop it. Twist it. Twist it. Pull it. Twist it. Pop it. Twist it. Twist it. Wow! 100! You beat Pop it. Pop it. Twist it. Twist it. Pull it. Twist it. Pop it. Twist it. Twist it. Wow! 100! You beat Pop it.
December 22nd, 2021. A woman walks into Columbia Police Department, tears streaming down her face. "My boyfriend's been missing for 2 days," she tells Officer Mendez. "This isn't like him. He wouldn't just leave us." For 2 weeks, Taylor Wardlaw became the face of a desperate search. She organized volunteers, sobbed on Facebook Live, begged news cameras for help finding Terrell Sims, the father of her child. There was one problem. She knew exactly where he was, because she'd shot him 3 times and dumped his body in the woods. What you're about to hear isn't just murder. It's a performance so calculated it fooled everyone. By the end, you'll understand how someone can look into a grieving mother's eyes and lie without hesitation. Because sometimes, the person begging for help finding the victim is the one who made sure they'd never be found alive. Welcome to True Crime Tales HQ, where we don't just tell stories, we expose the truth behind the headlines that shatter lives and communities. Before we dive into today's case, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Each subscription helps us continue bringing these important stories to light, and hitting the notification bell ensures you never miss an upload. Comment where you are watching from, and if you find this story impactful, please share it. Your share could literally save someone's life. Before we dive into darkness, you need to know who Terrell Sims really was. 26 years old, father of 4, with an unmistakable smile and dreams bigger than his circumstances. His twin sister Marcella called him her lifelong protector. "My brother tried to smile through everything. Even when times got hard, he found reasons to laugh." Terrell juggled multiple jobs to support his children, converting a closet into a recording studio because music was his escape. He performed as T, writing songs about fatherhood and building better lives for his kids. He kept individual journals for each child, writing advice for when they grew older. "Those kids were his world," a friend recalled. He'd skip studio time for school events. Being dad wasn't something he took lightly. Picture a man who'd work double shifts for Christmas presents, whose phone overflowed with videos of birthdays and first steps, who'd freestyle lullabies to make his children giggle before sleep. On December 20th, 2021, all those dreams would be silenced. Not by accident, but by someone who claimed to love him. And while his family planned his funeral, while his children asked when Daddy was coming home, the woman responsible was perfecting her role as the grieving girlfriend. Terrell met Taylor Wardlaw in 2018. Friends remember instant chemistry. She was confident, commanding attention, while he was laid back. What looked like opposites attracting would reveal itself as something dangerous. Within months, they lived together. Initially, Taylor seemed to bring structure to Terrell's chaotic life, juggling for children and co-parenting arrangements. But structure and control are separated by a razor-thin line. It started small. Taylor demanded constant communication, not curiosity, but surveillance. When Terrell recorded music, she'd call repeatedly, insisting he video chat to prove his location. When he visited his other children, she monitored the clock, questioning why visits ran long. She would call him over and over, a friend later told police. She'd demand FaceTime to see exactly where he was and who he was with. The phone monitoring escalated. Taylor went through messages, call history, social media. She questioned every text from his children's mothers about pickup times. Financial control followed. Terrell had to ask permission for studio time, justify gas money to see his kids. "My brother started changing," Marcella remembered. He became quieter, always checking his phone like he was afraid to miss her call. He was walking on eggshells. The isolation was strategic. Taylor created friction with his friends, scheduled activities during his custody time, systematically cutting threads connecting Terrell to his support network. In 2020, the relationship took a dark turn. Taylor, 9 months pregnant, accused Terrell of domestic violence, claiming he threatened her life and pointed a gun at her. He was arrested, missing their child's birth and early months. Here's the psychological twist. Despite no contact orders, despite her own allegations, Taylor posted his bail in August 2021. She brought home the man she'd accused of threatening to kill her and their infant. Think about that. Either Taylor had lied to control and punish Terrell, or she willingly brought someone she believed dangerous back into their home. Neither scenario suggests a healthy relationship. When Terrell returned wearing an ankle monitor, friends say he seemed broken, desperate to prove he wasn't the monster the system saw him as. He walked on eggshells, terrified of anything that might send him back to jail. By December 2021, something shifted. Family members say Terrell confided his plans to leave Taylor after the holidays, wanting peaceful co-parenting arrangements. He told me he couldn't live that way anymore, a cousin revealed. He was making plans to move out after Christmas. Taylor sensed the end coming. Text messages show Terrell's mature attempts to discuss custody, focusing on what was best for their child. Taylor's responses alternated between emotional manipulation and thinly veiled threats about consequences if he left. What Terrell didn't realize, Taylor had no intention of letting him walk away. She'd controlled every aspect of his life for 3 years. And for someone who sees another person as property, the ultimate control isn't keeping them imprisoned. It's making sure they can never escape at all. December 20th, 2021, 9 p.m. Neighbors heard raised voices from their apartment. Nothing unusual for Taylor and Terrell. But this argument about Christmas plans would become something unthinkable. The fight began over a text between Terrell and one of his children's mothers about holiday arrangements. In healthy relationships, this would be routine co-parenting. In Taylor's world, it was betrayal demanding confrontation. Terrell, exhausted from 3 years of walking on eggshells, made a fatal decision. Instead of apologizing, he told the truth. I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving tonight. Not after Christmas. Tonight. Those words hung like a loaded gun. For Taylor, losing control wasn't just unacceptable. It was impossible. While Terrell gathered belongings from their bedroom, Taylor walked to the kitchen, retrieving a handgun she kept in a drawer. The forensic evidence tells the story her lies would later try to obscure. The first shot struck Terrell in the shoulder as he turned toward her. He wasn't threatening her. He was trying to understand why she had a gun. The second shot missed, embedding in the bedroom wall. The third shot revealed Taylor's true intentions. As wounded Terrell tried to flee toward the bathroom, she fired again, striking him in the back as he ran away. Let that sink in. The woman claiming self-defense shot a man in the back as he tried to escape. Terrell collapsed, bleeding from multiple wounds. In that moment, Taylor made a choice revealing something chilling about human nature. She didn't call 911. She didn't attempt CPR. She didn't check if the father of her child could be saved. She called Eddie Youngster Brown. Brown was 32, someone Taylor had maintained an on and off romantic relationship with throughout her entire time with Terrell. I need you to come over, she told him. I have a problem that needs to be taken care of. Not, I need help. Not call an ambulance. A problem that needed taking care of. Because Terrell wasn't a human deserving medical attention. He was an obstacle needing removal. While waiting for Brown, Taylor began her 2-week performance. She gathered cleaning supplies, scrubbing blood from the bedroom. She collected Terrell's personal items, phone, wallet, keys, not as keepsakes, but as evidence to disappear. Most significantly, she removed Terrell's ankle monitor. This wasn't panic. This was calculated thinking from someone understanding the device would alert authorities to his death. Brown arrived at midnight with an empty duffel bag. Security footage shows him entering at 11:47 p.m., leaving 43 minutes later carrying a heavy load. No questions asked. He simply helped dispose of evidence. Together, they wrapped Terrell's body in plastic, loaded it like garbage into the bag, gathered shell casings and blood-stained rags. By 1:30 a.m., they drove through dark Columbia streets with Terrell's body toward a secluded wooded area near Montello Road, 7 miles from where he'd taken his last breath. They carried him down a steep embankment, concealing him among undergrowth, covering him with branches and leaves. They disposed of his ankle monitor in a dumpster behind a gas station, stopped at an all-night car wash to clean Brown's vehicle, scattered evidence across the city in various dumpsters. By dawn December 21st, their task was complete. Terrell lay hidden while the woman who killed him prepared for the performance of her lifetime. For 48 hours, Taylor waited. Not from shock or grief, she was calculating. Too quick might raise suspicions. Too long might seem uncaring. She needed the perfect balance of concern. December 22nd, she delivered the performance of her life to Officer James Mendez. Clutching Terrell's photos, eyes red from apparent crying, voice cracking as she recounted their argument on December 20th. We fought about Christmas plans. He needed to cool off and walked out around 10. I expected him back, but he never came home. She provided perfect details: height, weight, clothing, usual hangouts. She mentioned his ankle monitor, suggesting malfunction to explain why probation hadn't raised alarms. Here's what's chilling. As Taylor sat pleading for help finding her missing boyfriend, she knew exactly where Terrell was. She could have drawn a map to his location. Phase 2. Weaponizing social media. Her first Facebook post at 3:17 p.m. was manipulation mastery. Please help find my children's father. He's been missing for 2 days. This isn't like him. He would never just leave us. She tagged news stations, community groups, anyone with large followings. Her Instagram live sessions revealed true acting ability. Tears streaming as she held Terrell's photos, describing his clothing, answering concerned followers while subtly redirecting efforts away from where his body lay. When someone suggested searching near Montello Road, she quickly dismissed it. Police already checked there. We need to focus elsewhere. By December 26th, Taylor transformed personal tragedy into community mission. Over 50 volunteers showed up at a church she'd organized as command center. Picture this: Taylor distributing flyers, directing search teams to areas carefully chosen far from Terrell's location, positioning herself as the devoted girlfriend doing everything possible. We need to check every park, every abandoned building, she instructed volunteers, voice breaking with apparent exhaustion. She documented everything. Photos of herself consoling Terrell's mother, embracing his family, pointing at maps while directing teams. These images became social media evidence of her tireless efforts to find the man she loved. Local news covered the search extensively. Reporter after reporter interviewed Taylor, her performance never wavering. Perfect consistency in grief, desperation, unwavering belief that Terrell needed to be found. His children need their father, she pleaded into cameras, tears flowing on command. We need him home. But Detective Lisa Morales was noticing inconsistencies. Taylor claimed Terrell left without his phone, then mentioned texting him. Her timeline shifted, first saying he left at 8, then 10 o'clock. She told police he took his wallet, told family he left with nothing. Most troubling, when questioned about contradictions, Taylor didn't respond with confusion expected from genuine distress. She became defensive, almost angry anyone would question her version. When innocent people get details wrong, they're embarrassed and try to correct themselves, Detective Morales explained. When guilty people get caught in inconsistencies, they get hostile. The most damning evidence was something Taylor couldn't control: her phone's location data. Cell tower records showed that early morning December 21st, Taylor's phone pinged towers near Montello Road, exactly where Terrell's body lay hidden. When asked if she'd ever been there, Taylor was adamant. Never. I don't even know where that is. It was a lie that would destroy her carefully constructed narrative. While Taylor orchestrated public grief, Detective Morales followed evidence, not emotion. Her 15-year career had developed instincts for reading people beyond their words. The ankle monitor data told a story contradicting Taylor's timeline. December 20th showed normal movement until 9:15 p.m., then violent motion lasting under 10 minutes, followed by rapid movement consistent with transportation, finally complete signal loss at 2:43 a.m. December 21st. This pattern is textbook, Morales explained. Violent motion suggests struggle or assault. Transportation phase indicates body being moved. Signal loss happens when someone deliberately removes the device. Cell tower data provided the smoking gun. Taylor's phone had ping towers along a route leading directly to Montello Road between 1:47 to 3:15 a.m. When confronted, Taylor became aggressive. "I've never been there. Your data must be wrong." But cell tower data doesn't lie. January 3rd, 2022. Detective Morales assembled K-9 teams to search wooded areas near Montello Road. At 2:47 p.m., cadaver dogs alerted near a creek bed 200 yards from the main road. They found Terrell Sims partially concealed beneath forest debris, wrapped in plastic, decomposed from nearly 2 weeks' exposure. Multiple gunshot wounds were immediately visible, including an entry wound in his back. There was no self-defense scenario. You don't shoot someone in the back while they're attacking you. Evidence mounted rapidly. Luminol revealed blood spatter in the bedroom despite cleaning efforts. Security footage showed Taylor and Brown moving a heavy duffel bag. Deleted messages discussed cleaning up a problem. Internet searches included how long before missing person declared dead and cleaning blood from carpet. The murder weapon was found in a storm drain near Brown's residence after his eventual cooperation. January 4th brought the breakthrough. Jasmine Williams, Taylor's close friend, contacted police. She called me right after it happened. She was panicking, saying she'd shot Terrell during a fight. She asked if I could watch her baby while she took care of something. Neighbors confirmed hearing gunshots around 9 p.m. December 20th, followed by Brown's arrival after midnight. A gas station attendant remembered Taylor and Brown cleaning debris from a vehicle in early morning hours. Detective Morales realized she was dealing with something beyond typical crime of passion. This was premeditated murder, followed by calculated community manipulation. "I'd never seen anything like what Taylor did," Morales reflected. She didn't just hide the crime. She turned the investigation into performance, making herself the star of her own victim's search effort. January 6, 2022. Police found Taylor at her mother's house, packing suitcases with urgent efficiency. She wasn't surprised by their arrival, displaying the same calculated composure she'd shown throughout her deception. "Taylor Wardlaw, you're under arrest for murder of Terrell Sims." No tears, no protests, no demands to know what this was about, just stone-faced silence as handcuffs clicked. Eddie Brown was arrested simultaneously. Unlike Taylor, his composure cracked immediately. Facing accessory charges and decades in prison, he agreed to cooperate, providing minute-by-minute accounts of the cover-up that made Taylor's innocence claims impossible. Even facing overwhelming evidence, Taylor maintained her facade, pleading not guilty and fighting the case for over 2 years through various legal maneuvers, suppression motions, mental health evaluations, delay tactics. March 25, 2024. Days before jury selection, Taylor finally accepted reality, pleading guilty to first-degree murder in exchange for prosecutors dropping additional charges. The plea required full confession. Standing before Judge Maria Gonzalez, Taylor spoke in flat, emotionless voice. "I shot Terrell Sims 3 times during an argument. I called Eddie Brown to help dispose of the body. I then filed a false missing person report and organized search efforts." The clinical nature was almost as disturbing as the crimes themselves. Even admitting guilt, Taylor seemed more concerned with legal technicalities than human cost. Judge Gonzalez sentenced her to 20 years, with 85% minimum before parole eligibility. The calculated nature of not just taking a life, but manipulating a community's compassion afterward demonstrates profound moral failure beyond typical criminal behavior. Brown received 5 years as accessory after the fact. But the real measure of damage couldn't be captured in legal proceedings. For children now grow up with only stories of their father. Terrell's mother retired early to help care for kids scattered among family members. Every birthday, Christmas, school event marks another moment Terrell misses. 20 years doesn't equal a life taken, Marcella told reporters. My brother's children will be grown before she's free. That's not justice, it's compromise. The family established a trust fund using community donations, created a foundation supporting children who've lost parents to violence. Each year on Terrell's birthday, they award music scholarships to young artists, honoring his dream of recording for his children. Marcella channeled grief into advocacy. My brother believed in turning pain into purpose. If his death can help prevent other children losing parents, maybe some meaning can come from this tragedy. Monthly gatherings bring Terrell's children together to share stories, ensuring their father remains more than a photograph. We want them to know he was real, funny, silly, would make up songs about brushing teeth. He was a whole person who loved them completely. The community Taylor manipulated has transformed violated trust into meaning. Volunteers who searched for Terrell now work with domestic violence organizations. Churches that hosted fake search efforts now hold real support groups for abuse survivors. Even in darkness, people chose to create light. Taylor's case reveals terrifying truths about digital age manipulation and our vulnerability to sophisticated deception. What makes this disturbing isn't just murder. It's what happened afterward. Her 2-week performance demonstrates rare but recognizable instrumental grief, simulating genuine emotion for strategic purposes. Most people can't fake grief convincingly because genuine distress involves involuntary responses difficult to replicate. But individuals with certain personality disorders can compartmentalize emotions so completely they perform grief while feeling satisfaction about achieving goals. Taylor weaponized social media to control narrative around Terrell's disappearance. She understood that in our digital age, whoever speaks first and most emotionally often shapes story perception. By immediately positioning herself as devastated girlfriend, she made it psychologically difficult for anyone to suspect involvement. Her Facebook Live sessions weren't just help-seeking. They were calculated efforts creating digital evidence of supposed innocence. Every captured tear, every shared plea became alibi existing in public consciousness, even when physical evidence told different stories. She exploited community psychology, knowing people want to help, especially involving children. By repeatedly mentioning Terrell's children needing their father, she triggered protective instincts in strangers compelled to join searches. Most disturbing, her ability to manipulate Terrell's own family. These people had known and loved Terrell his entire life, yet Taylor's performance was so convincing even they initially accepted her version. The warning signs were there. Taylor's need to monitor communications, isolation tactics, financial control, extreme jealousy. These form recognizable patterns domestic violence experts understand as escalating abuse. Excessive monitoring isn't romantic attention, it's control. Isolation from friends and family isn't wanting more time together. It's removing support networks. Financial control isn't helpful money management. It's creating dependency. Walking on eggshells isn't normal relationship stress. It's fear-based behavior modification. These patterns develop gradually, making them difficult to recognize from inside relationships. What feels like intense love initially can slowly transform into surveillance and control. If you recognize these patterns, understand that questioning your safety is itself a significant warning sign. In healthy relationships, you don't wonder whether you're safe. The National Domestic Violence Hotline operates 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. Counselors understand abusive relationship psychology and can help assess situations, develop safety strategies, connect with local resources. If calling feels unsafe, access chat support through thehotline.org. Local shelters provide more than emergency housing, legal advocacy, counseling, practical support for rebuilding lives. Family justice centers coordinate multiple services under one roof. The My Plan app provides secure safety assessment and planning tools. If concerned about someone else's relationship, approach with patience and non-judgment. People in abusive relationships often feel ashamed or fear they won't be believed. Focus on listening and offering consistent support without demanding immediate action. Document concerning incidents if witnessed, but prioritize victim safety over evidence collection. Sometimes the most helpful thing is letting someone know you're available when they're ready to talk. Trust instincts if something feels wrong about a friend's relationship, even if you can't identify specific incidents. Isolation tactics like Taylor used are designed to cut people off from outside perspectives, recognizing unhealthy patterns. 3 years after Terrell's murder, his youngest child is learning to walk, laughing at simple joys, unaware they're growing up in tragedy's shadow. Across town, his oldest keeps a notebook writing letters to their dad about school, friends, dreams, asking questions that will never be answered. These children will know their father through stories and songs, through family love refusing to let his memory fade, through a foundation turning loss into hope. But they'll never have what they deserved most, knowing Terrell as the man who wrote individual journals for each, who would have cheered every graduation, who dreamed of walking them down aisles. That's the real cost of Taylor's actions. Not just 3 bullets fired December 20th, 2021, but every birthday Terrell will miss, every bedtime story he'll never read, every guidance moment he can't provide when his children need him most. But here's what Taylor couldn't destroy. The love Terrell put into the world continues growing. His music plays at scholarship ceremonies. His words live in journals kept for his children. His protective spirit lives in Marcella's advocacy work. His dreams inspire the foundation bearing his name. Marcella recently said something capturing why this story matters. My brother believed love was stronger than hate, hope more powerful than fear, building something positive better than tearing down. Taylor tried proving him wrong by taking his life. But every scholarship recipient, every helped family, every person learning warning signs from his story proves he was right. The community Taylor manipulated has transformed violated trust into meaning. Volunteers who searched for Terrell now volunteer with domestic violence organizations. Churches that provided space for fake searches now host real support groups. Social networks that amplified lies now share educational content about relationship safety. Even in tragedy's darkness, people chose creating light. Every time you share this story with someone needing to hear it, you honor Terrell's memory. Every time you recognize warning signs and offer judgment-free support, you continue his legacy of protection. Every time you choose love over control, truth over performance, you help create the world he wanted his children to inherit. Terrell Sims mattered. His dreams mattered. His children matter. His story matters. The truth Taylor tried hiding has been told. The performance she maintained has been exposed. Justice has held her accountable. But the most important part isn't about her at all. It's about a young father who loved his children enough to work double shifts for Christmas presents, who turned closets into studios documenting dreams, who wrote individual journals because he wanted each child feeling specially cherished. It's about a twin sister who turned grief into advocacy, a community that turned manipulation into education, a family refusing to let love be conquered by hate. Most importantly, it's about you and what you'll do knowing someone you care about might be living in the relationship type that destroyed Terrell Sims. Because awareness without action is just entertainment. And Terrell's story deserves being more than that. It deserves to save lives.
What I saw, I wouldn't want any parent to go through. I could look in the room. There's writing all over the wall. I kind of just was in shock for the whole day. I knew something was wrong. That's not my daughter. She would call me all the time, talking about, Daddy, I'm checking on you. And I'd be like, I'm checking on you. You know, that was our little joke. And I knew something was wrong as soon as I got there.
Yeah, that was our baby. And as many people in Houston knew her and loved her, she was sweet with them as she is with us. She took care of people. She's just a sweetheart. And my baby's gone from a tragic event that didn't have to happen. Being strangled to death is a horrible way to die. And my baby's gone. And it was horrible to even think about it.
Imagine a life filled with fame, fortune, and the adoration of millions, a life that seemed to glitter with endless possibilities. This was the world that Mercedes Moore, a rising social media star, had come to inhabit. With her captivating beauty, infectious personality, and a growing empire of loyal followers, Mercedes appeared to have it all. But on a quiet Sunday evening in August 2021, the city of Richmond, Texas, was shaken to its core by a horrific discovery. In an upscale gated community, the lifeless body of a young woman was found inside her own home, a victim of a brutal and senseless crime that would leave her family, friends, and countless fans reeling in shock and grief. This was the tragic fate that had befallen Mercedes Moore, a vibrant and ambitious woman whose dreams of success and happiness had been cruelly snatched away. As the details of this shocking case began to emerge, a chilling truth would come to light, that behind the glamorous facade of Mercedes' life, a dark and twisted obsession had been quietly festering, one that would ultimately lead to her untimely demise. In the days and weeks that followed, the world would come to know the true identity of this captivating young woman, Jenna Gagnier, a Houston native whose entrepreneurial spirit and relentless drive had propelled her to the heights of social media stardom. But as we delve deeper into her story, we will uncover the harrowing events that led to her tragic end, and grapple with the sobering lessons that her death has left in its wake. This is a tale of fame, danger, and the fragility of life, a cautionary story that demands our attention and compels us to reflect on the perils that can lurk in the shadows of online celebrity. Join us as we unravel the mystery surrounding Mercedes Moore's untimely demise and explore the far-reaching implications of this devastating tragedy. Welcome our esteemed viewers, to True Crime Tales HQ, your destination for captivating true crime stories. I'm your host, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today as we delve into the tragic case of Mercedes Moore, a rising social media star whose life was snatched away far too soon. Before we begin, please like and share this video with your friends and family. The more we can spread awareness about these important stories, the better we can honor the memory of those whose lives have been lost and work towards a safer, more just world for all. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest true crime tales we have in store. We're committed to bringing you the most captivating and thought-provoking stories, all designed to keep you on the edge of your seat and leave you with a deeper understanding of the complexities of the human experience. Now, let's dive right in and unravel the mystery that surrounds the untimely demise of Mercedes Moore. Brace yourselves, because this is a tale that will grip you from start to finish. Mercedes Moore was a young woman whose life was filled with both promise and complexity. Born Jenna Gagnier on a crisp November day in 1987, she hailed from the bustling city of Houston, Texas, where she was the eldest child of Mark Gagnier and Janetta Grover, a couple who had met and fallen in love while serving their country in the military. From an early age, Jenna displayed a remarkable entrepreneurial spirit and a keen eye for fashion and beauty. Even as a precocious 12-year-old, she was already finding creative ways to earn her own money, setting up a cozy little hair braiding studio in the family's garage. With her nimble fingers and an artist's touch, Jenna would spend hours meticulously weaving intricate patterns into the hair of her friends and neighbors, her infectious smile and bubbly personality drawing in a steady stream of loyal customers. But Jenna's idyllic childhood was not without its challenges. When she was still quite young, her parents' marriage began to crumble, leading to a painful divorce that would force Jenna to shuttle back and forth between their homes in Texas and California. This upheaval took a toll on the young girl, and she began to act out, getting into altercations with other students at school. Despite the tumultuous home life, however, Jenna remained resilient, determined to forge her own path in life. After graduating from high school, Jenna made the bold decision to leave Houston behind and venture out to the bright lights of Las Vegas. It was there, in the bustling city of sin, that she would reinvent herself, adopting the glamorous persona of Mercedes Moore. Working as a professional dancer in the city's vibrant club scene, Mercedes quickly discovered that her captivating beauty and natural charisma could command a hefty price tag. She was earning up to $5,000 per weekend, a staggering sum that would have made even the savviest of businesspeople green with envy. At first, Jenna's parents were hesitant about her chosen profession, but as they witnessed the financial success that Mercedes was enjoying, their concerns began to melt away. They recognized that their daughter had a unique talent, a gift that could propel her towards a future of wealth and prosperity. And so, they begrudgingly accepted her decision, hoping that this newfound success would lead her down a path of fulfillment and happiness. Over time, Mercedes transitioned from the dance floor to the world of high-fashion modeling and social media influencing, amassing a massive following of over 2.6 million devoted fans on Instagram. She began to rub shoulders with the biggest names in the entertainment industry, forging friendships and connections with the likes of Drake, Travis Scott, and Offset. Her star was shining brighter than ever, and she seemed poised to take the world by storm. Despite her growing fame, however, Mercedes remained remarkably grounded, never forgetting her roots in the bustling city of Houston. She cherished her close-knit family, maintaining strong bonds with her parents and her beloved younger sister, London. And while the relentless spotlight of social media stardom brought with it a host of new challenges, Mercedes faced them with a resilience and determination that were truly awe-inspiring. As Mercedes Moore's empire continued to expand, the young woman found herself navigating the delicate balance between her public persona and her private life. She was keenly aware of the dangers that came with her newfound celebrity, and in a desperate bid to protect herself and her loved ones, she made the decision to relocate to a gated community in the suburbs of Richmond, Texas, a place she hoped would offer a safe haven from the prying eyes of the public. Little did Mercedes know, however, that the shadows of danger were about to creep ever closer, as a dark and twisted obsession was quietly taking hold, one that would ultimately lead to the unthinkable, shattering the dreams and aspirations of a young woman who had the world at her fingertips. As Mercedes Moore's dazzling career as a social media influencer continued to soar, the young woman found herself grappling with a growing sense of unease and vulnerability. The relentless spotlight of fame had brought with it a host of new challenges, from unwanted advances to disturbing instances of doxing, the malicious practice of leaking an individual's personal information online. Determined to protect herself and her loved ones, Mercedes made the decision to relocate to a gated community in the suburbs of Richmond, Texas, hoping that the added security measures would provide the sanctuary she so desperately craved. The Cortland Apartments, with their high walls and robust security systems, seemed like the perfect haven for a woman whose every move was scrutinized by millions. Mercedes settled into her new home, surrounded by the comforts of luxury and the peace of mind that came with living in a tightly controlled environment. She continued to build her social media empire, collaborating with high-profile brands and further cementing her status as a rising star in the influencer world. But even the illusion of safety that the Cortland Apartments offered could not shield Mercedes from the darkness that was slowly creeping into her life. Unbeknownst to the young woman, a twisted obsession was quietly taking hold, one that would ultimately lead to a horrific and senseless tragedy. On that fateful Sunday evening of August 29, 2021, Mercedes' father, Mark Gagnier, received a call that would shatter his world. His younger daughter, London, was frantic with worry, reporting that she had not heard from Mercedes in several days, an uncharacteristic silence for the social media-savvy influencer who was known for her constant online presence. Overcome with concern, Mark rushed to the Cortland Apartments, his heart pounding with a sense of dread. As he forced his way through the locked door, the scene that unfolded before his eyes was one of pure devastation. There, at the bottom of the stairs, lay the lifeless body of his beloved daughter, her clothing torn and her home in complete disarray. The true horror of the situation, however, was yet to be revealed. As Mark made his way upstairs, he stumbled upon the body of a man, later identified as 34-year-old Kevin Accorto, who had taken his own life in the aftermath of the brutal murder. The disturbing scene painted a chilling picture of a twisted obsession that had spiraled out of control, leaving a trail of unimaginable tragedy in its wake. Investigators would later uncover a series of disturbing messages that Accorto had scrawled on the walls of Mercedes' apartment, a haunting testament to the depth of his deranged fixation on the young influencer. The details of the crime were truly horrific, leaving all who learned of them reeling with a profound sense of sorrow and disbelief. In the blink of an eye, Mercedes Moore's dream of a safe and secure future had been shattered, her vibrant life snuffed out by the darkness that had been lurking in the shadows. As the news of her tragic demise spread, the world was forced to confront the sobering reality that even the most carefully curated lives can be susceptible to the dangers that lurk in the digital realm. For Mark Gagnier and his family, the grief and anguish of losing Mercedes would be a burden they would carry for the rest of their lives. The once promising future of their beloved daughter had been cruelly snatched away, leaving an indelible mark on all who knew and loved her. And as the investigation into her murder unfolded, the true scope of the tragedy would become increasingly clear, a cautionary tale of the perils of fame in the age of social media. As the tragic events that unfolded at the Cortlandt Apartments in Richmond, Texas, began to unfold, a profound sense of mystery and bewilderment gripped the community. How had the killer, a man named Kevin Accorto, been able to locate and gain access to Mercedes Moore's carefully guarded home, a residence that was supposed to be a safe haven from the prying eyes of the public? Investigators delved deep into Accorto's background, uncovering a disturbing pattern of obsessive behavior and a dangerous fixation on the young social media influencer. By all accounts, the 34-year-old had no direct connection to Mercedes, no prior history of violence or criminal activity. And yet, in a chilling twist, he had somehow managed to breach the security of the Cortlandt Apartments and commit a heinous act of murder that would leave the nation reeling. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Mercedes' family and friends were left to grapple with the unimaginable. Her father, Mark Gagnier, was devastated beyond words, his heart shattered by the loss of his beloved daughter. Mercedes was the light of our lives, he would later reflect, his voice thick with emotion. She had so much to look forward to, so many dreams and aspirations. And then, in the blink of an eye, it was all taken away. Janetta Grover, Mercedes' mother, struggled to make sense of the senseless violence that had claimed her child's life. She was always so careful, so aware of the dangers that came with her fame, Janetta recalled, her eyes brimming with tears. We thought this place would be safe, that the security would protect her. But in the end, it wasn't enough. Mercedes' younger sister, London, was inconsolable, her world turned upside down by the sudden and tragic loss. Mercedes was my best friend, my everything, she said, her voice wavering with anguish. We were supposed to grow old together, to build our lives side by side. And now, she's gone, and I don't know how to go on without her. As the investigation into the murder progressed, a chilling picture began to emerge. Accorto, it seemed, had been harboring a twisted obsession with Mercedes for years, meticulously tracking her every move and consuming her online content with a disturbing intensity. Neighbors reported seeing the man lurking around the Cortlandt Apartments in the weeks leading up to the tragedy, his gaze fixed on the windows of Mercedes' unit. Law enforcement officials were baffled by the level of Accorto's determination and the sophistication of his methods. This wasn't just a random act of violence, one detective remarked. This was a calculated, premeditated crime, driven by a dangerous fixation that had been festering for God knows how long. The discovery of Accorto's disturbing messages, scrawled in blood on the walls of Mercedes' apartment, only deepened the sense of horror and revulsion that gripped the community. The words spoke of a deranged obsession, a twisted belief that he and Mercedes were destined to be together, even in death. As the investigation continued, the true scope of the tragedy began to emerge, shattering the illusion of safety and security that Mercedes had sought to create for herself. The young woman's dreams of fame, fortune, and a bright future had been cruelly snatched away, replaced by a nightmare of unimaginable proportions. For Mark, Janetta, and London, the pain of losing Mercedes was a burden they would carry for the rest of their lives. The vibrant, ambitious young woman they had known and loved was gone, leaving behind only the haunting memories of what could have been. And as the world mourned the senseless loss of a life cut tragically short, the haunting question remained: how could this have happened, and what could have been done to prevent such a devastating tragedy? The tragic and senseless murder of Mercedes Moore sent shockwaves through the community of Richmond, Texas, and beyond. The once vibrant and promising young woman, whose dreams of fame and fortune had seemed so within her grasp, had been cruelly snatched away, her life cut short by a deranged obsession that had festered in the shadows. As the investigation into the case unfolded, the true scope of the devastation became increasingly clear. Kevin Accorto, the 34-year-old man responsible for Mercedes' brutal murder, had taken his own life in the aftermath of the crime, leaving behind a trail of disturbing messages and a chilling testament to his twisted fixation on the social media star. For Mercedes' family, the grief and anguish of losing their beloved daughter and sister was a burden they would carry for the rest of their lives. Her father, Mark Gagnier, was inconsolable, his heart shattered by the senseless tragedy that had befallen his family. Mercedes was the light of our lives, he would later reflect, his voice thick with emotion. She had so much to look forward to, so many dreams and aspirations. And then, in the blink of an eye, it was all taken away. Janetta Grover, Mercedes' mother, struggled to come to terms with the reality that the carefully crafted sanctuary she and her husband had sought to provide for their daughter had ultimately failed to protect her. "We thought this place would be safe, that the security would protect her. But in the end, it wasn't enough," she lamented, her eyes brimming with tears. For Mercedes' younger sister, London, the loss was truly devastating. "Mercedes was my best friend, my everything," she said, her voice wavering with anguish. "We were supposed to grow old together, to build our lives side by side. And now, she's gone, and I don't know how to go on without her." As the community struggled to make sense of the tragedy, the broader implications of Mercedes' murder began to come into focus. Her story shone a harsh light on the very real dangers that social media influencers face, the constant threat of obsession and violence that can lurk in the shadows of their carefully curated online personas. The case also highlighted the urgent need for better safety measures and support systems to protect those who have achieved a level of fame and recognition in the digital age. Mercedes had taken every precaution, moving to a gated community in a desperate bid to shield herself from harm, and yet it had not been enough to save her. As the world mourned the loss of this vibrant and ambitious young woman, there was a growing recognition that her death could not be in vain. Mercedes' story had to serve as a wake-up call, a catalyst for change that would inspire a deeper understanding of the perils of online celebrity and a renewed commitment to safeguarding the well-being of those who dare to dream big in the digital realm. In the end, the legacy of Mercedes Moore would be one of both tragedy and resilience, a cautionary tale that would echo through the ages and compel us to confront the darker realities that lurk beneath the surface of our increasingly connected world. Her life may have been cut short, but her spirit and her determination would live on, inspiring others to fight for a future where no one has to sacrifice their safety in pursuit of their dreams. As we've witnessed the heartbreaking story of Mercedes Moore's tragic demise, it's clear that her life and untimely death have left an indelible mark on all who have heard her tale. The senseless violence that cut short the dreams and aspirations of this vibrant young woman has shaken us to the core, forcing us to confront the sobering realities that lurk in the shadows of our increasingly connected world. But Mercedes' legacy need not be defined solely by the darkness that claimed her life. Rather, her story can serve as a powerful catalyst for change, inspiring us to come together as a community and work towards a future where no one has to sacrifice their safety in pursuit of their dreams. We invite you, our viewers, to share your thoughts and reflections on this case in the comments below. What lessons can we learn from Mercedes' tragic fate? How can we better protect those who have achieved a level of fame and recognition in the digital age? Your voices and perspectives can help shape the dialogue and drive the change that is so desperately needed. For those of you who wish to delve deeper into this case and explore ways to support initiatives that aim to safeguard public figures, we encourage you to visit the website mercedemorememorial.org. There, you'll find a wealth of information, resources, and opportunities to get involved in the fight against the dangers of online obsession and violence. By coming together and raising our collective voices, we can honor the memory of Mercedes Moore and ensure that her story serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the urgent need to prioritize the safety and well-being of all. So, please, join us in this important conversation and help us chart a course towards a future where dreams can be realized, and no one has to live in fear of the shadows. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Together, we can make a difference, one story at a time. Stay tuned for more true crime stories that will captivate, educate, and inspire us to create a safer, more just world for all. Subscribe now and be a part of this vital movement.
Can you bring me the insurance card? 5 words. A simple request between romantic partners. The kind of everyday favor that happens in relationships across America every single day. But for 29-year-old Merciana Struggs, those 5 words became her death sentence. What started as an ordinary afternoon in Houston became a nightmare that would expose the deadliest form of domestic violence. The kind that destroys successful women who dare to act like they own their own lives. A thriving OnlyFans entrepreneur who refused to share her earnings. A car she bought with her own money that her boyfriend treated as his property. An insurance card request that was never about paperwork. It was about testing who really controlled her life. Gunshots echoing through a Houston apartment complex. A young mother running desperately for survival. And a man who decided that if he couldn't possess her completely, then no one could. This isn't just another true crime story. This is a wake-up call about financial abuse, digital age domestic violence, and why the moment you try to leave becomes the moment you're most likely to die. How does financial independence become a motive for murder? How does asking for your own property back trigger an execution? Today, we're diving into the horrific murder of Merciana Struggs and why her story should terrify anyone who thinks domestic violence looks the same as it did decades ago. Before we dive into this shocking case, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button if you're ready for another deep dive into true crime. Second, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest investigations. And third, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I love connecting with our true crime community around the world. Now, let's get into the heartbreaking story of Merciana Struggs and uncover how an ordinary day turned into an unthinkable tragedy. Before we witness the horror of July 19, 2024, you need to understand exactly who Merciana Struggs was. Because she represented everything that should be celebrated in America, not destroyed. At 29, Merciana embodied entrepreneurial courage. When life in Harvey, Louisiana wasn't providing opportunities for herself and her 8-year-old son, she made the bravest decision possible, packed up everything and moved to Houston, chasing something better. That kind of courage, leaving everything familiar with nothing but hope and determination, defined who she was. Friends and family knew her as Murray, a woman with infectious laughter and unwavering loyalty. Her sister Kamani called her our family's rock, the person everyone turned to when life got hard. But Merciana was more than supportive family member. She was a businesswoman. Working tirelessly to provide for her child, she built a successful OnlyFans business. She maintained clear professional boundaries, making it known she was selling content only, never meeting clients in person. She was committed to maximizing earnings for her family's future. Her neighbor at Park at Cumberland Apartments, Shawnee Drury, remembered she was beautiful, kind, and a loving mother. You could see how much she cared about her son. Everything Marciana did centered around that boy. Every late night creating content, every dollar saved, every dream of someday owning her own home. It was all for him. The 2018 Honda Civic she drove represented more than transportation. It symbolized independence earned through her own hard work. She was building the American dream one subscription at a time, proving that success comes in many forms, and that a mother's love drives the most incredible entrepreneurial spirit. But while Marciana was building financial independence, a threat lurked in her present. Someone who viewed her success not as admirable, but as something he was entitled to control. Someone who saw her independence as a challenge to be destroyed. Nicholas Finley would soon show her exactly what he thought of women who dared to act like they owned their own businesses, their own cars, and their own lives. July 19th, 2024 began like countless others. But this day would end with a successful businesswoman dead for the crime of independence. Marciana had made a decision that put her in the most dangerous category of domestic violence victim. She was leaving Nicholas Finley for good. That decision, experts tell us, increases a woman's chance of being murdered by 75%. With a gun involved, that risk jumps to 500%. The call came that afternoon with deceptive normalcy. Finley's voice probably carried that familiar tone of urgency mixed with entitlement that Marciana had learned to recognize. He claimed he'd been pulled over while driving her car and needed her insurance card. On the surface, reasonable. Boyfriend needs girlfriend's help with paperwork. But examine the layers of control already embedded in this simple request. Finley was driving Marciana's car without her. Not borrowing it for a specific errand, but using her property as if it were his own. This wasn't about transportation, it was about establishing ownership. When pulled over, his immediate response wasn't to handle the situation himself like any responsible adult would, but to demand she drop everything and solve his problem. Think about the psychology here. He could have called his own insurance company, handled the citation himself, or simply waited for her to return home. Instead, he chose to turn his problem into her emergency, testing whether she would still jump when he called, still prioritize his needs over her own boundaries. Marciana probably felt that familiar knot in her stomach, the one that forms when you know something feels wrong but can't quite articulate why. She had been building the courage to leave, establishing her independence, and now here was Finley, once again making her responsible for consequences of his actions. But she went anyway, because that's what victims of psychological abuse do. They continue trying to be reasonable with fundamentally unreasonable people. She grabbed Shawnee Drury's roommate for support, perhaps sensing she shouldn't face this alone, and headed out for what should have been a simple errand. The drive to the supposed location probably felt tense. Was Marciana already sensing this was unusual? Did she express doubts to the roommate? We never know her exact thoughts, but victims of abuse develop hypervigilance, constantly scanning for signs of manipulation, lies, or danger. When they arrived at the location where Finley claimed he'd been pulled over, her worst suspicions were confirmed. He wasn't there. No police cars, no traffic stop in progress, no stranded boyfriend grateful for rescue. The entire scene was empty, normal, undisturbed. For most people, this would be confusing, but not alarming. Maybe you got the location wrong, maybe the stop ended quickly. But when you're dealing with someone who systematically controls every aspect of your life, every inconsistency feels suspicious. Every lie, no matter how small, feels like a test of whether you'll call out the manipulation or quietly accept it. Marciana probably felt that sinking realization. This wasn't about insurance cards, or traffic stops, or even practical problems. This was about something else entirely. But what? And why the elaborate deception? The roommate likely witnessed Marciana's growing unease as they searched the empty street. Maybe she called Finley, demanding to know where he was. Maybe she felt foolish for falling for what now seemed obviously like a lie. Maybe she felt angry at being manipulated once again, or scared about what this really meant. So they returned to Park at Cumberland Apartments, probably discussing the strange situation during the drive back. Marciana might have been analyzing the inconsistencies aloud, trying to make sense of Finley's behavior, wondering if she was overreacting, or if her instincts were right to be screaming danger. But when they pulled into the familiar parking lot of her apartment complex, the true nature of this insurance card emergency became crystal clear in the most chilling way possible. There was Nicholas Finley, sitting in her Honda Civic, waiting for them like a predator who had successfully lured their prey exactly where he wanted them. Not standing beside the car apologetically, not grateful for her help with his supposed emergency, not even pretending the insurance card story was real anymore. He was sitting inside her car, her property that she had purchased with her own OnlyFans earnings, like it was his throne. Like he had every right to be there. Like her independence and ownership meant nothing. This wasn't about insurance cards or traffic stops or even practical problems. This was psychological warfare designed to answer one crucial question. After everything Murciana had done to establish her independence, after all her talk of leaving, would she still submit to his control when tested? Would she quietly hand over the insurance card and accept his dominance over her property? Would she avoid confrontation and let him continue treating her car as his own? Would she choose peace over principles, compliance over independence? Or would she finally do what he feared most, assert ownership over her own life? When Murciana stepped out of the roommate's vehicle and approached her own car, her heart probably racing with the adrenaline that comes from recognizing you've been played, she was walking into the most dangerous moment of her life. Because there's nothing more threatening to an abuse.
What happened next proved this was never about paperwork, never about a simple favor between partners. This was about a man who couldn't tolerate a woman acting like she controlled her own life. The confrontation escalated with terrifying speed. As Murciana approached her car, ready to reclaim her property and assert her independence, Nicholas Finley drew a pistol and fired shots directly into her. Just like that, an ordinary afternoon became a nightmare. But here's what makes Murciana's story both heartbreaking and inspiring. She didn't just accept her fate. Wounded but not defeated, she immediately fled, running through the apartment complex in a desperate bid for survival, proving that even in her darkest moment, she was still fighting for the life she'd worked so hard to build. Shawnee Drury suddenly found herself thrust into real-life horror. "My boyfriend pushed me back in the house and we just went in the bathroom," she recalled, voice trembling months later. "I just had my hands over my head and I was praying because it was so loud. I thought he was coming in the house." But Finley wasn't content with attacking just Murciana. He kept saying he was going to kill everybody in the house who was trying to help her, Drury remembered. This wasn't random violence. This was calculated psychological warfare, ensuring Murciana would face her final moments completely alone, with no one brave enough to intervene. In her frantic search for safety, Murciana managed to reach Shawnee's truck, probably thinking she'd finally found sanctuary. But Finley was relentless. He approached the truck and fired 4 or 5 more shots through the windows, shattering glass and any hope this ordeal might end with her survival. Somehow, incredibly, Murciana was still alive, still moving, still refusing to give up. She got out of the truck and continued trying to escape, her will to live and love for her son pushing her forward even as her body was failing. But Nicholas Finley was far from finished. What he did next should forever change how we understand domestic violence and the deadly combination of control, possession, and male entitlement. As Murciana collapsed near Shawnee's front door, wounded and defenseless, Finley approached with the calculated precision of an executioner. He stood over her and fired 8 more shots into her body. 8 more shots into a woman already down, already defeated, posing no threat to anyone. He shot her like 8 more times, Shawnee testified. It was just so senseless, very, very senseless. This wasn't self-defense or even anger. This was the ultimate assertion of power, the power of life and death over someone he'd decided belonged to him. But Finley wasn't finished asserting ownership. After executing Murciana in the most brutal way imaginable, he took her purse and drove away in her car. The capital murder charge includes not just the shooting death, but robbery of her car and purse. Prosecutors believed the theft was either a motivating factor or part of his calculated response to her independence assertion. He killed her for daring to act like she owned her car, then stole that car as his final act of possession. He murdered her for refusing to share her OnlyFans earnings, then took her purse containing the fruits of her labor. The symbolism is chilling. If Murciana wouldn't voluntarily give him everything she owned, he would simply take it all anyway, including her life. Murciana Struggs was pronounced dead on the scene. She was 29 years old, had built a thriving online business, moved to Houston seeking fresh starts, and dreamed of owning her own home. She died because Nicholas Finley decided her success, property, and life all belonged to him. Harris County Sheriff's Office responded swiftly to flooding 911 calls. Multiple witnesses, scattered shell casings, and a victim whose injuries told the story of prolonged, calculated violence made this case straightforward. Catching Finley proved simple. He fled in Murciana's car, easily trackable. Deputies located him shortly after and arrested him without incident. No chase, no standoff. Just a man who committed execution-style murder, then tried driving away like nothing happened. He was charged with capital murder and remains in Harris County Jail with bond denied, awaiting trial while a community heals and a boy grows up without his mother. But Murciana's murder isn't isolated. It's a symptom of an epidemic destroying families nationwide. Sheriff Ed Gonzalez delivered a statistic that should terrify everyone. Intimate partner murders comprise 35% of all homicides in unincorporated Harris County. More than 1/3 of murders involve someone killing their romantic partner. This isn't happening in distant crime-ridden cities. This is suburbs, apartment complexes, neighborhoods where kids play and neighbors know names. The Houston Area Women's Center emphasizes that when someone tries to leave an abusive relationship, their risk of being killed increases by 75%. With a gun involved, that risk jumps to 500%. Nicholas Finley was armed with a pistol, making Murciana's case a tragic example of this exponentially heightened risk. Think about her story through this lens. She had successfully built financial independence through her OnlyFans business, established autonomy that should have been celebrated. Most importantly, she had decided to leave Finley for good, actively disengaging from an abusive relationship and asserting her right to own her car and keep her earnings. That decision to leave, that refusal to continue being controlled, that's what cost Murciana her life. As Chenika Brown, Chief Program Officer at Houston Area Women's Center, explains, domestic violence manifests in various forms: physical, sexual, economic, financial, and mental abuse. Finley used every single tactic, controlling her car, demanding her business earnings, isolating her through intimidation, and ultimately resorting to deadly violence when she refused to submit. Her story plays out across America every single day. The only difference is most of these murders don't get the attention they deserve, don't spark the necessary conversations, and don't motivate changes that could save lives. As Sheriff Ed Gonzalez stated, love shouldn't hurt. But for too many people like Murciana, love became possession, possession became control, and control became a death sentence. Understanding how abusers think is crucial for preventing future tragedies. The insurance card incident reveals everything about the abuser mindset. Domestic violence is rarely about love or passion. It's about power, control, possession. Abusers don't see victims as partners. They see objects to be owned and controlled. This dehumanization makes extreme violence psychologically possible. Warning signs to recognize: financial control. Does your partner control money, car, resources? Use your property as if theirs. Isolation. Do they separate you from support systems? Escalating possessiveness. Do they act like they own you? Extreme reactions to independence? Do they become angry when you make autonomous decisions? Threats and intimidation? Do they use fear to control behavior? If you recognize these patterns, understand it doesn't improve alone. Control escalates, possessiveness grows, violence increases. The only survival method is leaving safely, with help, with plans, with support from people who understand the dangers involved.
The insurance card Nicholas Finley requested on July 19th was never about paperwork. It was about testing control, asserting dominance, and ultimately punishing a woman who had the audacity to build her own successful business and act like she owned her own life. Merciana Struggs paid the ultimate price for pursuing financial independence, for refusing to share her hard-earned income with a man who felt entitled to it, for believing she deserved to drive her own car without asking permission. But her story also represents everything right about the human entrepreneurial spirit: the courage to start over in a new city, the determination to build financial independence, the love that drives a mother to work tirelessly for her child's future. Every person watching this who learns to recognize warning signs of digital age abuse potentially saves lives. The woman being pressured to share her OnlyFans earnings, the partner whose boyfriend constantly borrows her car, the entrepreneur whose success makes her partner controlling, they need to hear Merciana's story. If this case impacted you, take action right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Stories like this need telling. Share this video. Someone in your network might be living their own version of Merciana's story. Start conversations about financial abuse and digital control. If you or someone you know needs help, reach out. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233, available 24/7. Merciana deserved to see her son grow up, to achieve her dream of home ownership, to expand the business she built through determination and hard work. We can't give her that life back, but we can make sure her death means something. We can honor her memory by refusing to let other successful women be murdered for the crime of independence and entrepreneurship. We can be voices that speak up when financial abuse is disguised as sharing expenses. We can be the change that prevents the next tragedy. Merciana's story ends with her death, but our response is just beginning. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for being part of the solution. Your voice matters, your engagement saves lives, and together we can build a world where no successful woman dies for refusing to share her earnings with someone who didn't earn them. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and keep fighting for justice for victims like Merciana Struggs.